Welcome to the Immunity Community 2020, where our focus is to provide physical, mental, spiritual info and positive vibes to help you endure and adapt. We'll be bringing you experts to provide strategies to handle stress and boost your immunity. So welcome all to the Immunity Community 2020. If you have lived in Montgomery County, Frederick County, and if you're in this area and you have not heard of Mike Moses, Master Mike, I don't know where you've been for the last 20 something years. So since I've been in business since 2002, I think we've known each other almost 20 years now, which is insane. I've only come to classes a couple times, but you are a pillar of not only in business, but a pillar of strength and fortitude of mind, body, spirit. And I'm honored and I'm super grateful to be able to chat with you about the importance of martial arts, how it ties into this pandemic, and also just the local climate of business and what's going on. So Master Mike, if you can just, I want my crowd and then also, our crowds together, our tribes together. Can you give us your history of like how you got to Evolve?
Yeah, I really appreciate you inviting me on to this, Brian. Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen each other in like actual physical form, but man, you're always in my heart. And I really appreciate all the things that you do for the community and our students. And, your name again is the first name that pops up that everybody talks about when they talk about any kind of physical therapy or chiropractor. So once again, thank you for bringing me on here. And that intro that you gave me, dude, I need to like have that clipped and put on my website.
You got it. No problem. I'm learning how to repurpose everything, so you got it.
Dude, that was hype. But I just wanted to start with a basic intro, and the intro will lead on into how Evolve was formed. It's a pretty exciting story. How much time do we have, though? That's the question. And the second thing is, as I start rambling, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah. Let's just roll, man. I want to know your story more in depth because we've never sat and done this. So just go, man.
I got a problem though. I talk too much. So if I start talking too much, cut me off.
I'll put the hand up in the camera.
There we go. I love that.
No worries.
Okay. So basically my whole life was formed with two anchors, my mom and my dad, of course, even though they split up when I was in high school. Growing up, my dad was an Army guy that served 3 tours in Nam. He was a chopper pilot, got shot down behind enemy lines, had to carry his partner through enemy lines. They traveled at night for 3 nights. He brought his partner over his back because he had a broken leg. So to say he was a war hero is an understatement. He went back after that, served another tour, but he met my mom, who had lost everything from the communists in Vietnam. So they met over there. She had my sister over there, and then she had me over here. But growing up, my dad never really talked about all his war stuff, but I found out later in life about it. But growing up, the real anchor in my life was my mom's stories and how she had lost everything to the communists. So my patriotism came from actually my mom. Even though my dad was the war hero, my mom, who had seen the other side of the coin, always, like all 3 of us, my brother served, he just retired out of the Army. My sister married an Army guy. All of us was just indebted to America for what it had given her. So my whole views growing up was always very patriotic. America, America, America. So of course, that led me into the Marine Corps. Right out of high school, I joined the Marine Corps. And that right there is what really blossomed this whole dream. Since I was 5 years old, my dad put me in the martial arts because I was a small person. And he was always worried about the bullies like every parent. But my dad got me into the martial arts, Taekwondo. And from 5 years old, I did it all the way up to high school. When they split up, I quit martial arts. You could see if you did a graph when all the trouble started was when I quit martial arts. Yep. Grades went down. I met all the police officers. All the judges know my name. One of them told me I should join the military. But anyways, that's a long story. But I had a lot of trouble in high school. Had to do 12th grade twice. I always say I have a 13th grade education.
Awesome.
I failed 12th grade. Graduated with my brother. It was a great time. That second 12th grade, 1986, was way better than 85. Even though I only had 3 classes to go.
You were already experienced. It's okay.
I was experienced. Yeah. It was just a lot of fun, but a lot of trouble. So all my friends went off to college, and I was stuck there and still getting in trouble. So that's why I ended up in the Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps is where everything fell into place. I got in a lot of trouble in the Marine Corps as well. But I happened to get stationed in Virginia Beach next to a group of guys that were the most elite guys in the military. So at the time, nobody even knew who these guys were because it was so secretive. But I happened to get stationed next to SEAL Team 6.
Wow.
And since I was in the Marine Corps and I was a marksmanship instructor, I got to use their range and befriend a bunch of these SEAL Team 6 guys. And if you don't know who SEAL Team 6 is, you have your SEALs, and then you have your Super SEALs. So the SEALs is already a level above anybody else in the military. But then the top of the top goes to SEAL Team 6. And these are guys that do all the special covert stuff like kill Osama bin Laden, all these other things that nobody else can humanly do. So these guys are the elite of the elite. And I just happened to get stationed next to them and befriend a bunch of them. They all knew I was into martial arts, so they kept inviting me over to train. And of course, at the time, I was a kickboxer, taekwondo, Shotokan, Kempo. So that was when everything took off. Because these guys at the time period, and this was back in so it was 86,
early 90s,
88, 89. They had so much money, I don't know about now, but unlimited budget to bring in the top of everything. So they brought in the top shooting coaches. They brought in the top athletic coaches. One of the stories I tell everybody is that Lance Armstrong at the time was a Tour de France guy. They brought his coach in to coach them into better performance of lung power, all this other stuff. Anything that would help them be better super soldiers, they would bring them in. And they happened to bring in the Gracies. This was before anybody knew who they were. So they started bringing in the Gracies and training with the Gracies way before the UFC won. So of course the story goes, they invited me over because they knew I was a good stand-up fighter. And just like UFC and those Gracie and action videos, the first time I squared up with one of them, he told me to go 100%, like try to knock him out because we were going live.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't have gloves on. I can't hit you because I'll hurt you. I can't knee you because I'll hurt you. But make a long story short, after that, my path changed to jiu-jitsu.
Awesome. Yeah. So did you lose that fight?
3 times. I didn't believe it the first time. I didn't believe it the second time, but the third time.
Choked out. Awesome. So you completely shifted and then got into jiu-jitsu at that point.
Well, actually, I still did my stand-up, and then UFC 1 happened, UFC 2 happened, and we became MMA fighters. We actually were the king of Virginia Beach and the East Coast for years because of the head start we had on everybody else. So we had a group of guys, my professor, my instructor, you guys would call, is a SEAL Team 6 guy, Frank Cucci. He trained a bunch of guys, about 12 of us, and we would just do, just like the UFC, we do the local fights, and that's how my name got out there, Scott's name. All these guys that were in that original group got out there because all we did was synergy with each other. We just trained, and everybody became so good that we would go to these cage matches, and every single one of our guys would win. It wasn't even a question. Everybody knew it. So they would bring the top guys in to try to fight us and get demolished. So this went on for years. I'm
gonna keep us on point to travel. Yeah. So no, you're good. You're good. This is my job right here as a rookie interviewer. So now if we fast forward a little bit, let's put us in the place where you're in Maryland starting your business and Evolve Martial Arts Academy.
Yeah. So my goal was after 10 years of the Marine Corps, I had a choice of a couple of different ways to go in life. And one of them was stick with the Marine Corps. I only had 10 more years. My mom, to this day, she always gives me money when I go to her house because she doesn't know how I make money. She just thinks I'm a bum still. But I'm like, Mom, I got a living. I'm doing this because she believed I should have stayed in the Marine Corps for another 10 years. But then at that point in life, I wanted to get out and just chase the MMA dream. And there was actually absolutely no money in it. I just wanted to be a better fighter.
Yeah.
And that's the path I took. I got out of the Marine Corps. My former instructor got me to come to his academy. And then for many years, well, no, about one more year, I kept doing cage fights. And then I had a major accident that took me out of, I can't get hit in the head no more because of an accident. I had a wooden sword go in my eye, so I got a false lens.
Jeez.
And I don't have an iris. So I couldn't take any more shots. So that led to the teaching path. So, but at that time I had befriended one of the UFC refs. He became a UFC ref, Mario Yamasaki. And he asked me to come up here to help him with his school, which I did. And I got a couple of odds and end jobs. And then we were pretty much helped him build his Yamasaki Academy, which is in Rockville, for many years. And then I started getting into the bodyguarding work. From there, I got into bodyguarding work, and that exploded because they saw my background. And at the time, the bodyguards were real big, and you see them on TV, but they wanted a guy that was really trained and could fit in, you know, an office setting. I could walk with the principal, and nobody knew who I was. I just looked in a suit without long hair. I looked like one of the guys. You know what I mean? So that's the way the whole industry started shifting towards. And I was just in the right place at the right time. Awesome. I became AOL's, the Steve Case, his wife, her personal guy for 2 years. And then AOL fell apart. But by that time, I had saved up enough money to open my own academy. And that's how Evolve started.
And what year was that? Did you open Evolve?
Evolve opened up 2001. So
nice. Yeah, we opened up like the same time. I remember where you used to be in Gaithersburg, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I'm still here. I just moved up the hill. We opened a bigger one, but it was down in that little hole in the wall. Yeah, those are some funny stories too. But anyways, I'll stay on track. But at that moment, it was really small, and I was doing more of the personal security, and the martial arts was more of a hobby. So we had a very small crew down there. And then I lost a job with AOL, and then it became my permanent job. So I flip-flopped. So then I started doing the personal security more as a hobby, and then the martial arts is full-time. Okay. Which that's what I want to do. So
yeah. And so now can you tell us where before this scenario, because I want to dive into that as well. So before the pandemic and that kind of stuff, what has Evolve evolved into, and what's it like to be a student and part of this tribe? And go.
The tribe is interesting because it's evolved, and I'll probably throw that name about 1,000 more times through this interview. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. But it actually has. When I first started, like I said, it was a hobby. So you'd walk in that old little spot, and actually there was still like blood on the walls because nobody cleaned it. And it was just like every day you walked in there, it was almost just like the Fight Club. You don't talk about it. And I didn't advertise it, but these people just started whispering in their ears. And we had all these tough guys come in there and start training with me. And it was brutal. Every day there would probably be like people leaving the mat limping, some guys missing a teeth. I mean, it was a straight up brutal place. And I didn't care because I was just there to train as hard as possible for not only I got into jiu-jitsu competitions then because of my eye and no-gi competitions, but I also wanted to be as proficient as I could in real life self-defense. So every day was almost like a fight in there. And it dawned on me after I lost my job that there was only like 20 or 30 guys there. None of them were paying. So I was footing the bill for everything, but I didn't care because I was making a ton of money. Yeah. So as I flipped and I had to make it a living, I started realizing that people won't come in the door for that. You know, and most people aren't in there to fight. They're in there to learn self-defense. It's completely different. Mm-hmm. So this is when the curriculum and every step-by-step things that we do here started developing. Like, how do we keep people in here? Because even the fighters, when they got hurt, they disappeared and they were gone, you know? So the injuries, you know, what are your goals when I think about what I want to do when somebody comes in the door? Like, what were my goals? So if you saw, all these guys were superior athletes that were coming in the door. So any coach, not just me, taking one of those guys could probably have made them into monsters. But how do you take somebody that isn't a superior athlete and make them able to defend themselves? That accomplishment is actually wow. So that is how their curriculum got developed. And then what we started noticing is that these people, like if you look at some of my students, they've been here from the day Evolve opened now because of this, not only the physical training part of this, but the mental part, the spiritual part. Those things became the things that we try to highlight with this new curriculum. So when you walk in the door, before you would walk in and you would just see these monsters standing around with no shirts, dripping sweat, just muscles bulging everywhere. But when you come in here now, you see, and it smelled. One of the moms told me that she would never, because I hadn't seen her until we opened up this new location. I said, where have you been? She goes, I couldn't stand your old spot because I couldn't stand the smell. So her husband finally talked her to come to the new spot because we smell good in here.
Yeah.
But not only that, I make everybody wear the uniforms. There is no changing outside the dressing rooms. It's a very, very relaxed environment, but there's structure and it makes people want to come in here because you're not intimidated. This is one of the hardest things to do in our martial arts because it's very effective. People want to learn it for the fight. But when we did it Evolve, we turned it around. We're teaching it as the self-defense. I wholeheartedly believe there is nothing better out there for self-defense. But how do you take MMA and make it into self-defense? You walk into a lot of MMA schools these days, it's still the same thing. Guys are running around without their shirts on. You walk in, and Brian, you look tough. The first thing they do is throw you a mouthpiece and gloves and let's see what you have.
And get crushed. Yeah.
Let's just fight. Let's see where you're at. Then we'll go from there. So that's a big difference of Evolve versus most mixed martial arts schools. I think a lot of the schools now are seeing that because of the success we've had. Mm-hmm. People recognize that, like, mixed martial arts can be done in an environment to where everybody can train. Okay, so can you speak to
before you get into that, because what I find the most interesting to your approach is how much you stress the internal strength versus there's obviously technique and form and function to be able to throw, punch, holds, move, that kind of stuff, the physical aspect. But what have you put through your programs and curriculum that has helped your students? Because it seems like the best martial artists know when not to fight, and they know when to stand still, and when to, and when to, I guess, I don't know if I'm saying defense or offense, but it just seems like there's such the higher the level someone is trained, the more emotional control they have. Can you speak to that a little bit on how that plays out through your curriculum?
Yeah, I got to ask you a question. When this whole COVID thing is over, can you come and become one of my instructors? Because that's absolutely doing it.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to have you. But one of the things that you're talking about is in our system, we talk about defense, always defending, and we talk about how to diffuse. So if you look at our MMA for self-defense program, it's very, very defensive art. Whereas a lot of martial arts, all they teach you is go for the throat, go for the eyes, go for the soft areas. But what we try to do is talk about first, how do I get out of this situation? And we do these little stress drills that put you in stress and then make you talk and make you keep your stance and hands up with a smile and still diffuse the situation. Because if I go immediately for your eyes or throat, I've already escalated the fight, where it could have been talked down. So that's one of the things that you had mentioned. But I think one of the things that gives everybody the internal strength to do that is having the self-confidence that this martial arts MMA actually gives you. Because once, and this is one of the bad things about MMA, because it's being taught to everybody, which we don't do. We do kind of like a interview process. And if I don't like you, I'll say goodbye. If I don't like your character, I'm not going to let you in my tribe, because it's a very, very close-knit group, and nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. Nobody's here trying to ego test anybody. So basically, what I'm saying is the martial arts, though, that we teach is being taught, and some people are using it because, again, it's one of the best things out there, are using it for the wrong reasons. But you get that self-confidence, which gives you internal strength. And every day you're in here, and it's not easy. Like, we have a very high attrition rate, even though we got a great curriculum. We still have a high attrition rate, because you do have to test yourself. Yeah. So when I say the curriculum's for everybody, it is. If you can actually walk, even if you have to wheelchair in here, we can still do drills. But not everybody can do it, okay? Because you still have to have that internal strength, and it is built every time you come into the mat. You're going to be challenged. I don't care if you're here, as long as I've been here. Every day I come in here, I'm challenged, okay? So I put myself in these different challenging things, but I think the challenge is what builds your internal strength. I think challenge builds all strength. Okay? Yeah. If you're not challenging yourself daily, that's when I think you start sliding backwards. Not only mentally, spiritually, but even physically. That's why physically you got to always challenge yourself. This is one of the things that separates us from all other gyms, is not only do we challenge you physically, we challenge you mentally and spiritually. Because how hard is it? And I do CrossFit. I've done it for 2 years. I haven't done it in a while, but while I was doing it, every time I'm doing my drills, I am competing against the next person. But you know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about the night when I can get on the mat, okay? Because moving this bar up and down just doesn't.
It's not the same.
That kind of
I get it. I get it. So I'm gonna pivot us a little bit, because I want our audience and because you've created an awesome Facebook group about. I'm gonna pivot our conversation towards the current climate of what's going on here. And we're going to share. So for those of you who are listening, if you're a student of Evolve and you know Master Mike, just please throw some comments in there, because he's an awesome dude. And obviously I've taken a couple classes there, and I've just had a great experience just with you in general. But when we talk about the group that you've created, Evolve is currently closed because it's a gym, quote unquote, a gym, correct? That's so. Before we jump into that, I think it was important because whenever you talk about whatever's going on now, there's a political comment, whether you're right wing, left wing, Republican, whatever it is. So I wanted to give you a platform to just speak your piece on that first. And then I want to hear about what's going on with your business in general, what you've been doing, and then what we can do to potentially get this thing back online.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because if you start talking about opening, people think that you want to kill people or you want people to die. But first things first is my views come from my background. So if you listen to my background, you know, I'm a small business owner. I've always, you know, military, this and that. So if you think about my background, you will assume I'm one thing, but I'm not. I'm actually, even though my views are formed from experience and education, I'm very open-minded. So I try to, like, my right-leaning friends always call me left, and then my left-leaning friends always call me right. I try to listen to everybody.
And you're right in the middle.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one of the main reasons is because when I moved up here, I've always been in the Marine Corps. My dad was in the Army, and then we were thrown into a little county in near Petersburg, Virginia, called Prince George. So I grew up with a bunch of country boys. But before that, all my friends were from all different ethnicity, all different backgrounds. So we didn't know anything about race or this. Everybody was just the same. So that was the same exact way in the Marine Corps, okay? But in high school, I was one of the only two Asian guys. My brother was the other one. So, you know, we felt a little bit of the racism stuff. And I have a whole video about racism and on YouTube. But my point is, I don't want to go off the track. When we start talking about reopening, people already put you in a little category. You're left if you want to keep it shut down. You're right if you want to open it. And that's for me how the debate already gets shut down. But I think, honestly, that if we, especially and I think they recognize this, where all the gyms now are on the tier 1 open list, even in Maryland. But I think we are one of the most important things to have open. Okay?
Yeah, I agree.
For all those reasons we said, you know, the healthcare surge is why we had everybody quarantined, correct? So
yes.
They wouldn't have this overpopulation hitting the hospital rooms. But again, the social distancing is what everybody's doing to flatten the curve. Mm-hmm. And if your business can social distance and follow those guidelines, like, why shouldn't you be open? We have Target open, we have Home Depot open, we have liquor stores open. So people aren't really quarantined, they're going out.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
They're just distanced and those companies are keeping people apart. So you're saying that, so currently you're closed, you haven't been able to open yet. And like, if people are going to come, if they were to come in and train, they could train on their own in separate little pods in the gym itself. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
And we have so many things. And Melissa actually is part of the council to reopen. And she's given her opinions on the martial arts gyms, especially that are like ours, mixed martial arts gyms that teach the close contact, because you can't really teach functional self-defense without making contact. There's just no way. If anybody tells you they can, that they're not teaching you functional self-defense. So I never want to, even if I have to shut the school down, I never want to go to the point to where I'm teaching fake stuff. I want to give you something that I believe in. You know what I mean? So how do we do that in this environment? So we came out with a couple of things, like you just said, train in the pods, but we also came up with the buddy system where you bring your wife in, you guys are home all day.
Together.
Yeah. Or a partner that you know and trust, and then you bring them in, and that's your partner to train with.
I'm also thinking as the testing becomes more readily available too, but I just like, there's no control over the speed of when that's coming out. Cause that'd be great to just test everybody as they came in, even better. So you can figure out who your partner is going to be. Cause like, if I brought my son in, it's not really fair for me to fight with my son cause he's 13.
That's absolutely true.
So hopefully that can happen a lot quicker.
Monday, I am going to Bethesda. I don't think everybody knows this, and I'm getting tested. It's $120.
Okay.
It's a drive up, and I can give you the information on that.
Yes.
But I think one of the things we could do too is send everybody there before they come through the doors. But you're just testing the moment in time.
Right.
You get tested at 12, and then I could walk by some COVID and get it, and then I'm infected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But give me a peace of mind to know if I have the antibody. If I have the antibody, I'm good though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And just in light of what this group is, I'm just a huge proponent of, and it's not just the physical aspect of the martial art that you teach. It's like how people can, like, this art in itself is going to help individuals endure such a challenging time, because we're going through such a crazy range of emotions of like being stuck in the house with our kids or our spouses and figuring all that out. So you've touched on the political aspect, and you just keep fighting the fight to get open as soon as possible. Is there anything that you can see happening in the next couple of days or coming across besides the testing? Is there light coming through the clouds that you see where this is going to happen quicker? Any ideas of timelines or anything?
Yes, sir. I honestly, when you asked me to do this whole podcast, I had the whole, and I don't know what we call this. Is this a podcast or what is this?
It's a hybrid, because I haven't figured it out yet either. So, because I don't have an official podcast, I'm doing it on Facebook Live. So thank God for Facebook Live, but it might eventually become a podcast. I just got to work on my interviewing skills. So that's.
I was a little when you asked me about this, I was a little in a different time frame and a different mindset. And I was thinking that there was no hope. We weren't going to be open until June. Okay. But now I see that every day there's new data coming out and new things happening, and this state's opening, and this state's opening, and this place is opening. We are, Melissa again and myself are on that task force, and we're submitting our recommendations. Hopefully they listen to it, to Governor Hogan, and we've been trying to tag him in a couple of videos. Awesome. Because again, I think this is so important to have open. And if you follow the guidelines, and even if they had like, one of the things we were talking about is, you know, off of that task force, just set your guidelines up, let these gyms open for the people. And if you had a couple of people just go around and make sure they're following the guidelines, I mean, there's no reason why a gym or martial arts academy wouldn't follow it. You know what I mean? So yeah. We're into protecting our people. And the last thing I'll tell you about this martial arts academy specifically, but most of them think like us, but nobody set up their academy like ours. So if you walk through the door, then, and I'll tell you a little story about why I did that. My brother trains jiu-jitsu in Richmond, and he kept going into this gym, and he has eczema. But he kept going in this gym, and he got staph infection on his spinal cord, and it almost killed him. And at that time, we were in the old school. I wasn't really thinking about the viruses and this and that. So when we built this school, we built it specifically to keep diseases off my mat. So when you walk in, you can't get on my mats without washing your feet. This is before the whole COVID thing. Without washing your hands, you have to be in the bathroom with flip-flops. We have all the sanitary stuff. And if you smell bad, there's deodorant in there, toothbrush, brush your teeth. I mean, legitimately, we try to think of every single way to keep those imaginary viruses out. Now, since the COVID, the real virus is here. You're ready. Are already 10 steps ahead of the game. We're going to even add more things to that. So my point is, I think a lot of schools think like us, and this place is cleaner or just as clean as a hospital, which is probably dirtier than this place, but almost as clean as their surgical room. I'm telling you, this place is clean.
Well, it's cool because what comes to me when we're sitting here talking, I love how you're thinking as a business owner and serving your clients even before this situation is like, because that's people are coming in to fight. They're not, you know, you're getting your moms and dads who are coming in who are not just dedicating their lives to MMA, but other general population people. So being clean is important. Not smelling is important. So it's cool to see how you evolved drastically, and I'm gonna plug your Evolve name again, but how you've evolved and created this as a business owner. So for yourself personally, I know you're a dad, you're a business owner. I'm not sure if you're married or not, but what have you had to do personally? Because you're always a larger than life leader. You're fun. You're gregarious. I know you. I'm sure you're human. You go through ups and downs. Who have you had to be inside to maintain leadership and maintain because I still see you, like I've always looked at you as a friend, as a colleague, as a leader, as a mentor. So what have you had to do inside to be able to stay strong?
Well, that's a great question, because when we go back to the left side or right side, you see me cracking a little sometimes, especially on my political posts, because I started my Facebook with the whole idea of Evolve Academy. Everybody's welcome. I don't care what your race is, as long as you're a good person. I don't care what you look like. I don't care if you're big, small, tall, whatever it is. You're welcomed here on my mats as long as you're a good person. And we figure that out by our interview process. We make you go through the intro, this and that. But as this whole COVID thing started happening, man, the emotions that I feel because I see this thing that I've built for 20 years disappearing has been very trying. So you see on my political posts, I'm supposed to stay away from it, but I've thrown a couple things out there on Facebook on my personal wall, which I shouldn't have. And I try not to now, because I don't want anybody, because the problem with today I find is once you say you're this, or you think a guy is this, you won't listen to anything else that person has to say. They're just,
defense comes
up. Out. Yep. You know, before this internet stuff and all Facebook, social media stuff, everybody had to meet face to face. And this is the greatest thing about meeting face to face, because we're not typing. We're not, I can see your emotions. You're talking to me. And if we're meeting face to face, nothing ever escalates the way it does on the internet, because
people feel really friggin' brave because they're not seeing, and I've experienced that with my kid, with some, the way that they're handling their communication, because there's no empathy by typing and talking smack about somebody and not seeing how you hurt somebody's feelings. So I get it, man. You've gone through a range of emotions, and we could talk for hours. I want to do another interview too, as you open up, and because I want to see when Evolve gets back open and like what's happened from there. I'm gonna start wrapping us up now. Is there a couple tips? One, two. What are the best tips for people to maintain that fortitude, that internal strength to be able to get through this? Business owners, so you can speak to your tribe members or my tribe members. What can you leave us with?
One of the hardest things, but one of the best things is, man, work out. And I mean, set aside 30 minutes to do a workout. And the workout could just be walking your dog around the block, stopping every 10 minutes to do a push-up or sit-up or squats. But get that blood flowing, because I'm telling you, when I'm depressed and I'm start thinking of these things in my head that's saying, your business never coming back, the people are never coming back, the government's going to shut you down, all these things that are going through my head, when I work out, they disappear. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And if you can punch something, because I got all these heavy bags and stuff, man, that just makes you feel great. But also maintain the self-discipline. Do not get into the habit of, and I got to tell you, the only crutch I have, because I don't eat sugar, I do the intermittent fasting. I do a couple of different things. But, man, you put a chocolate chip cookie in front of me, it's getting eaten. But my house, you walk into my house now, and there's pans of chocolate chip cookies. So I'm totally, like, every day I've been eating.
So everyone listen, they know how to get to Master Mike quickly is bring the cookies, the chocolate chip cookies.
I've had them in the freezer for this whole I think one of the Mrs. Fields has been in there for 2 years. And I baked them up.
It's just perfect timing.
Perfect timing, but it's bad. But I didn't maintain self-discipline. I do try to with the food still. I'm back on the sugar with the chocolate chips, but I do workouts every day. And those are the tips I would give you to stay positive. I'm telling you, the workout, people think when you're at home, I can't do it. Man, when you're sitting in front of TV, even doing just a couple of these squats, you're going to feel that blood flow, and the brain just totally starts changing.
Awesome.
That's some recommendations I would give.
Right on. So you are just awesome. I'm so glad we were able to connect like this. And it's crazy that we waited this long just to connect. And I know you're busy with life. I'm busy with life, but I'm glad this actually happened, because I want to get you out there to my people and really just spread the virus has such a bad connotation, but I mean, dude, you're a healthy virus. So like, I want the Evolve virus friggin' open. I want those doors open. So we're going to get this out there on social media and whatever support you need, if we can continue to help each other. And if we have to push you to, whatever support you're going to need, please ask us so that we can help you get things back open in a safe manner, obviously, and based on all the things you said. So thank you so much for everything you give us and everything you've done for this community, man.
Hey, thanks. Much love to you, Brian, and to all your peeps out there. I appreciate everything.
All right, brother. Thank you.
All right, sir.
Yes.